Have you ever felt that no matter how much you give, no matter how much you do, no matter what you become in this life, that you never truly feel safe, wanted, or loved? That is the abandonment wound that whispers from the shadows of the subconscious. My name is Ed Hegan. I'm a former New York City firefighter and a mindfulness meditation and breathwork guide. And today I'd like to walk beside you through the parts of yourself that feel forgotten. And this meditation is for the ones who are left emotionally, physically, or spiritually, and had to figure out how to survive in this world on their own. And as always, I'd like to start this meditation by dropping in together for a few deep breaths. And this is a way for us to connect with ourselves, our bodies, the present moment, and each other. So, exhale all the air out of your lungs. Breathe in slowly through the nose and fill up your belly. Fill up your chest. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. Release slowly. Inhale slowly through the nose. Fill your belly and your chest. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. One more to ground us. Inhale through the nose slowly. Fill that belly. Take more into the lungs. Hold. 4, 3, 2, and let it go. You're here, and you're safe to feel whatever you need to feel right now. If it doesn't feel good or you're not in an environment where you can relax and stay grounded, just download this or set it to yourself and watch it later when you have an opportunity to just be on your own and do the work, because it's important that you show up for yourself. It's actually part of healing the abandonment wound is to show up and do this work, because it's so easy to numb and distract ourselves by scrolling and eating and drinking and smoking and shopping and all the things. But if we actually want to work on understanding what it means to confront and address the wounds that we've been carrying that can really cause a low-level background hum of anxiety, depression, confusion, pain, insecurity. It raises our guilt and shame when we feel like there's something wrong with us. It's really important that we show up intentionally to do the work. And so this space can be the space for you to show up and simply take that first step towards showing up for yourself by doing the work necessary to confront some of the issues that have been holding you back from living more fully or living in alignment with the ways that you want. And the key points about understanding this abandonment wound is that it's not your fault. This is the way that you were programmed from a very young age. That your nervous system, if you think about it like a computer, our nervous system is formed and forged from the experiences and the environments that we're in when we're young, from the time we're born, the moment we're born. And all throughout our childhood, we are programmed to use the 5 senses, what we're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, to determine if we're in a safe environment or not. And if we are raised in an environment where we can oftentimes feel unsafe, many things can trigger our abandonment wound. It can be a look from somebody, or a tone of voice, or maybe our insecurity stems around feeling loved or wanted or included. And this wound is not just about being left alone. It's about feeling unseen, unworthy, or unimportant. And it can also be something that is triggered when we go through trouble in our relationships, breakups, when we have a loss or a betrayal. When these things happen in our lives, this triggers the abandonment wound because it can feel again like we are that child that is helpless and in danger and unsafe. And the wound lives in our physical body. It can live in a tight chest or an anxious belly or an overthinking mind or a combination of all those things. And sometimes we fear that we can be too much or not enough sometimes. And we learn to sometimes push love away or even want to sabotage it because deep down inside we don't feel worthy of being loved. And when we start to recognize these key points, we start to understand that we have a relationship between the external world, the things that happen to us, how our senses perceive it, how our nervous system interprets that, and then what it does to the physical body as a sensation or a feeling or an emotion or a thought. You see, when that stimuli happens, when something does something or says something, it can trigger us. And when it triggers us, we have this emotion. And it can be anxiety, fear, dread, panic, insecurity. Again, guilt, shame, all the emotions that we're kind of learning to identify if we haven't been taught these things when we were young. And so when our nervous system reacts, we can start to tell ourselves a story. This happens really on the subconscious and unconscious level, where something happens, the reaction happens within the body, and then the story starts that I'm not loved, I'm not wanted, I am not pretty enough, smart enough, strong enough, brave enough. And it really calls into question our level of competency, but on a deeper level, it also calls into our existence. What does that mean? Well, it means that if we were babies and we weren't picked up, we would cry. As soon as our mom removed us from suckling and nourishing and eating, if we just as a baby wanted to feel the warmth, the skin-to-skin contact, the heartbeat, hear the tone of the voice of the person that cared for us, to feel safe and secure and loved. Once we're removed from that, once we're put down and left on our own, what do? As babies, we cry. And we cry because we want that affection, that love, that nourishment physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We crave it and need it. Of all the species, the human animal doesn't really survive without that nourishment and that connection. And infants that don't get that nourishment and connection can suffer from so many devastating emotions and feelings of just not being enough, because this abandonment wound in us is sometimes so powerful because it informs our ability to cry out for the love and attention that we want and need to survive. So it's hardwired into our nervous system. So understand, your nervous system was formed when you were a baby. And so if you're feeling these feelings as an adult, it's really very natural and very normal. And it doesn't show up in the ways that we might think. We don't just cry like a baby and just throw a tantrum and wail. As adults, the abandonment wound shows up in a multitude of ways. People pleasing to earn that connection is one way that it shows up. Overworking to kind of prove our worth. And for men, it can be a little more challenging because we want to also prove that we're brave and strong. And so many men will just sacrifice themselves. They will not ask for help. They will just do it because they want to prove that they're strong and brave enough, because their value is inherently tied from a societal level to how brave and strong they can be, how much they can do, how much they can sacrifice themselves, even their lives. And, of course, to not complain about it. Man up and just do it. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, like, to not ask for help and just suck it up. It's really not a healthy way for us to have a relationship with our emotions and our needs. So we can also fall into these patterns of emotional numbness, where instead of feeling the feelings that we want to feel, the love and connection and affection, we kind of shut it down because we're just afraid that we're not worthy of having that or receiving that love. And this can also show up as a fear of intimacy or intense clinginess, where we either will just put blocks between us and something we might want to be attracted to or connected to out of fear of possibly losing it, or we hold on to it and we cling to it. And either way is just an extreme version of either desire or avoidance. And it's just the polarity of the same thing. And we can oftentimes sabotage a healthy relationship because our fear can drive us to push someone away. And in that way, we can sometimes want to try to leave that person, or we will abandon ourselves and our needs by not connecting with the intimacy that we want because we're afraid we're going to lose it. And so we'd rather avoid that by intentionally losing it, by sabotaging it and destroying it. And this can sometimes lead to us, if we're in a relationship, to constantly need reassurance or validation from our partner or from other people, or repressing this need to avoid being a burden, where we feel like we're a burden. We feel like just our presence is annoying or unwanted. And this comes from a deep insecurity about feeling unwanted and unloved. And this can be really challenging because we carry these wounds our whole life, and we figure out ways to get the love that we want and need. And so if we start developing these tactics of getting the love that we want and need, other people in our lives will take advantage of that. Meaning, if you're willing to abandon yourself and sacrifice yourself and people please to do things for other people to try to receive the love and validation, another person might see that as an opportunity to take advantage of that kindness and that weakness and use that for their own selfish gain, but without really reciprocating and giving back to you what it is you want and need. And this can create an unhealthy dynamic. And so really, when we feel this wound, it's less about getting the connection necessary to feel what we think we want to feel. But if we can instead heal the wound at a root level, we can avoid the mistakes of people pleasing and trying to be everything for others. And we can set healthy boundaries that are more protective over ourselves. And we can choose to extend our kindness, generosity, effort, energy, and resources to help and support people who reciprocate and appreciate us, and not people that will take advantage of that. And so we have to really pay attention to how we're behaving, what our motivations are, what we want, and how we want to connect, not only with other people, but with ourselves, how we want to feel. If we want to feel peace and grounded, that starts with us. It's an inside job. And being peaceful and grounded will help us to connect with others in a healthier way. So that's why it's so important that we recognize this is not about recognizing the want and the need and fulfilling that. It's about recognizing the root of that want and need, why we have that want and need. And if we can provide for ourselves the very things that we're looking for outside of ourselves, we don't need to seek it in other people. We don't need to seek validation or love or connection with other people, because we can have it with ourselves. And in that way, when we connect more deeply with ourselves, it allows us to connect more deeply with others, not out of a need, but out of a choice. And so we get to show up and connect with people in a way that feels healthy and nourishing, reciprocal, like a two-way street, like we're meeting each other's needs, we're feeding each other, we're nourishing each other. And this is not just in primary partnership. This is for family and friends and all the relationships in our lives. And so sometimes how we manage or avoid this abandonment wound is we do the things that everybody does. We distract ourselves by staying busy to avoid feeling the fullness of our emotions, because sometimes those emotions can feel really uncomfortable. We can numb ourselves with alcohol, overthinking, scrolling, shopping, you name it, food. And there's so many things that we can be addicted to. You can be addicted to work, making money, trying to be perfect. We can be addicted to so many things. As a matter of fact, I would say that even those that don't drink or smoke and have their social media usage in check and all that stuff, you keep looking, you'll find they have an addiction. And maybe that addiction is to perfection, to appearing perfect, to showing the world that their life is not like the life of the poor child who is neglected and abandoned and sad and alone. It's a compensation for something we feel deeply inside, a pain that we feel from this core wound that all of us carry. And if we don't address this wound, what happens is we'll even look to find a partner that will mimic and mirror the love that we did or didn't receive at home. And so we can actually wind up chasing love from unavailable people because it recreates that wound. It feels very much like the unavailable parent, the distracted mother, the busy father. And so if we start to recognize that we are recreating these patterns in our lives, we can either think that we can go chase around people and beg for love and cling for them and beg them, please don't leave me. Or we can recognize our pain and we can heal it from within. We can soothe that wound that the inner child carries. And we can offer the connection, the love, the compassion, the kindness, the tenderness that that child needed. And in that way, we become the version of ourselves that we always needed when we were going through a tough time. And that's a beautiful way to pay honor to this process of learning to love oneself and practice the self-care necessary to become the best version of ourselves. And when I say the best version of ourselves, I don't mean like some great version. I just mean a version of you that you are content with. Because the truth is, I'm not referring to a version of you that exists somewhere else, because that's just not true. Let me remind you, you are whole and complete just as you are. So when I say best version, I just mean it's okay to improve and it's okay to become better and heal your wounds. But it's also good to realize that you're not broken and there's nothing wrong with you as you are, because we all carry this fundamental wound. This core wound exists in every human being. And a lot of people, sometimes they can manage this emotion by pretending to that they don't care when they really do. It's this thing of like this numbness of turning off these emotions and pretending like, I don't really care. I don't need love, or I don't need this or that. I don't need. And it really is a way to just avoid feeling the truth that, I want to feel loved. I want to feel appreciated. I want to feel like I belong. I want to feel like I matter. I want to feel like I'm seen and heard. I want to feel understood. I want to feel included. I want to feel like my presence matters and it's valued, and that others care about who I am and what I am. And there's nothing wrong with that. There really is nothing wrong with wanting these things. But if we think we're going to get them from outside, we're going to suffer more and more. But if we can heal it from a fundamental root level, we'll stop seeking so much outside. That doesn't mean that we avoid connection. It just means we connect in a healthier way, because we're not looking for the other person to complete us or heal us. We practice the self-care necessary to remind ourselves of our wholeness and our completeness. And then when we show up as a version of ourselves that is more healed and loved, because we're giving it to ourselves. We're not putting expectations on the other to fix it for us. We fix it ourselves, and then we show up as a version of ourselves that can love more openly without desperation, neediness, clinginess, and fear. Because if we're showing up with this fear that we need to bend and twist and contort ourselves into a different shape to try to get the love that we want, we're not really showing up as our authentic selves. When we try to pretend to be something that we're not so that people will love us, they're not loving the truth of who we are. They're loving a version of us that we think they want. So when I say that, can you clearly see and hear from what I'm saying that, one, the version that you're presenting to this person is not the truth. So the amount of energy and effort that goes into pretending to be something you're not can be exhausting and burn you out. Two, the person that's perceiving this version of you is not seeing the reality of you and thereby not loving the truth of who you are. Whereas if you step back and say, hey, I'll dare to be myself, and if this person loves me, then you get to be the version of yourself that is true, and that person gets to fall in love and connect to the authentic, divine version of you. And I believe a lot of our life experience is about self-actualization. Meaning when all our basic needs are met, what we finally want to get to is the point where we can be the truth of who we are and feel comfortable and at ease in our own skin, so that as we navigate the world, we can dare to share that authenticity with other people and dare to be loved for who we truly are. And in that same way, it's a gift that we give to people, because if we give that gift to someone, we can, when we show someone else that we're showing up as our authentic self, we invite them to do the same thing. I'll show you mine if you show me yours type thing. Can we dare to be vulnerable enough to share the truth of who we are? Now, does that mean you have to sob like a baby, or if you're angry, throw a tantrum, or if you are frustrated, that you can act out passively aggressively? And no, it means if you're experiencing those heavy emotions, it is so important to recognize that it is your responsibility to regulate your nervous system. And as the saying goes, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to fix it. So if we're going to break that statement down, it simply means that a lot of the ways you might be acting and behaving in your adult life were as a result of things that happened to you when you were a child. Your parents or caretakers may have been abusive and neglectful. Or maybe they just didn't have the skills or tools to raise you in the ways that you needed. But if we step back and realize that that caretaker may have done the best they could with what they had at the time, if we can learn to forgive those that raised us, we no longer give our power away. And what happens is we recognize that we can stay stuck the rest of our lives, frustrated about, well, this happened to me and that happened to me, and when I was a kid this happened, and you know, he did this and she did that, and all. It's so natural and normal. Guilty as charged. I've spent times in my life being stuck in victim mentality. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I was often abandoned and neglected and left on my own and ignored. And when I say not fed, I mean, you know, sometimes there's food, but other people get it, and or like you become kind of like the butt of the joke or the punching bag because you're the smallest and most vulnerable. And in that way, it can be a really great opportunity for us to recognize, like, hey, the part of me that is hurting right now is not the adult version. The part of me that is hurting right now is the child in me that many years ago felt unsafe, felt unloved, felt abandoned. And I know it sounds strange to imagine that there's this child inside of you, but the reality is that if we can recognize that, we can actually have a communication and a connection with that part of ourselves. That we can learn to nourish and nurture and heal our inner child. I know it sounds kind of strange to imagine that there's an inner child or a different version of you, but there is. And we can even do a little exercise now where you can like put your hand on your heart or your belly. And as you just listen to the sound of my voice, just imagine the version of you that felt unloved, uncared for, abandoned, neglected, overlooked, uncared for, unwanted. And in your mind's eye, just imagine that version of you. And just breathe in deeply through the nose. And just simply spend some time to just be in the presence. We're not going to go in deep and have a whole conversation, but we can offer a few words to that child if we're open enough and vulnerable enough to listen. We can say, I see you, buddy. I see you. I love you. I honor you. I value you. And I care for you. And I'm not going to abandon you or neglect you or overlook you. You're cared for. You're loved. And you matter. And I know that you're upset and you're hurting right now, but you're okay. I got you. Now, as an almost 50-year-old man sitting here recording myself and posting YouTube videos and short form content of doing the inner work, I'm aware that it may seem to some people strange that I would physically offer myself affection by touching my chest and my belly and have a conversation with myself as if I'm a child, but it can be a really powerful way for us to soothe the parts of us that feel unloved and unwanted. It can relax our bodies. I don't know when the last time someone came over and offered you affection, rubbed your shoulders, put their arms around you, kissed you, looked at you and said, hey, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful to have you in my life. I appreciate you. You matter to me. I'm getting emotional now because even as I say the words to the camera, there's a part of the inner part of me that those words resonate with that part of me that wants to feel those things. And guess what? Everybody wants to feel those things. You, me, the Pope, the President, everybody on some level has an inner child that wants to be loved and cared for and tended to. And so don't dismiss it. Don't dismiss this as some kind of like hippy-dippy, over-emotional, this is too much, this is silly. If you want to really do the work and show up for yourself and really figure out a way to heal your nervous system, to reset it in a way where you can show up more relaxed, grounded, and calm. And you're just going to have to show up and do that work. You're going to have to take the time out when you can choose to take that hit or take that sip or watch that thing or scroll that app. Or you can sit in it and face the pain of the loneliness and the fear and the sadness and the neglect and the abandonment. You can heal it. But you got to show up to do the work. And no one's coming to save you at this point. Mommy and daddy are not going to come back to reparent you. It's not going to happen. So it's important that we recognize that even though it isn't our fault, it is our responsibility to fix it. And the benefits of fixing it are multiple. It's not just I get to not feel as anxious in my belly or my chest. Not that I just get to reduce social anxiety because I can show up in the fullness of who I am and not have to pretend and wear masks. Not just I'll be healthy for a primary partnership because I'm not going to constantly try to blame or escape through partnership or sex. What I'm going to do is instead find ways to keep myself grounded, satisfied, healthy, loved, and connect in a way that feels secure. So redeveloping a relationship with ourselves so that our attachment style when we engage with other people is healthier is an important part about addressing this core wound. And there's nothing to feel silly about, because I was never taught this stuff. This is stuff that should be taught in grades K through 10. Having an awareness of how our bodies and brains and nervous systems become conditioned through childhood, how we respond to stress, how we choose to understand that and use that information to improve the relationship with ourselves, the outside world, and with other people. But no one ever taught me this stuff. This is stuff I'm learning as an adult. And I learned it from suffering. I learned it because I have played in the victim mentality. I have manifested and exemplified abandonment wounds in ways that I have self-sabotaged. I have burnt bridges. And I have also experienced the pain of numbing and distracting by using substances and suffering from addiction with alcohol, cannabis, sex, like all the things that we use to cope and feel better and soothe the pain and the edges. But when we use substances or external things or validation or people or pleasure, we then become addicted to that because that is helping us to avoid and cover up the truth of what we're feeling. So yes, does it feel good to be numbed out from drinking booze? Yeah, for a little while. Does it feel numb to experience the release of a intimate connection? Yeah, it does. But is that intimacy real? Is that relaxation real? Is that relief real? Or is it temporary? Because if you think about it, what we're doing is we're using the external, that person, the substance, the addiction, the scrolling, the validation, the success, whatever it is, we're using that to try to make ourselves feel something that we could normally feel at baseline without any of that stimuli. And then what happens is when we connect with externalities like people and experiences or career for a sense of purpose and meaning, we can experience the fun and the enjoyment and the beauty of connecting with a sense of purpose by having a career and doing things that are meaningful, connecting with people, being in love, having friendships and relationships. But without this crucial mistake of thinking that our happiness is dependent on it, or seeking validation that this external thing is what creates meaning for me. It can just be something that is a part of your life, but you don't need it. And in that way, you can enjoy it without being attached to it. Because if you're attached to it, if you lose it, you're going to suffer. If you need something, there's always going to be fear built into that need. So if we can give ourselves the very things that we're looking for from other things outside of ourselves, we won't need those things. We can have them in our lives and enjoy them. When they come in, we experience them. When they leave, we're grateful that it happened. But we don't cling with this fear and desperation, because that's where we suffer. So how can we build awareness around this wound? Well, we can notice when we're triggered. So when we feel that edge, that feeling in our belly or our chest, or that adrenaline and cortisol pump through our system, and we're feeling that anxiety, we can notice when we're triggered and then ask ourselves, what is the story beneath it? Oh, well, so-and-so said this, or she did this to me, or he did that to me. And then we notice that we're telling ourselves a story. And what's the story we're telling ourselves? That essentially there's something wrong with us. That the reason that this thing happened outside of us is because fundamentally we're broken, or there's something wrong with us. And we know that's not true. But that's the story that we tell ourselves, because that's what it feels like deep in our core of our nervous system. When you ask yourself, what is the story beneath it? You can then explore it a little bit further and ask yourself, is that true? And you might see that the story that we're telling ourselves as a result of that emotion might not be the truth. We can ask ourselves, am I responding as the adult version of myself, or am I responding to this external situation as an abandoned inner child? I know it sounds kind of like simple, but give it a shot. Ask yourself, what part of me is feeling unloved? What part of me is feeling disrespected? What part of me is feeling unloved? Tell yourself the story and ask yourself if it's true. When you realize that it's probably not true, that there's nothing inherently wrong with you, that you're not broken, we can drop the story. And when we drop the story, stay with the feeling. What is the feeling? Identify it. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling neglected. I'm feeling unloved. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling excluded, unwanted, unloved, undesirable. Breathe into it. Spend some time with it. Sit in it. Don't numb. Don't distract. Don't scroll. Don't avoid. Don't sip. Don't smoke. Sit with it. I know it doesn't feel great, but it's okay. It's not going to hurt you. Here's the real truth. The more that we ignore it, or the more that we try to avoid it and fight it, the more powerful it becomes. I'm going to say that again. That the more that we avoid, the more that we numb and distract ourselves, the more that we try to not feel the feelings of the abandoned inner child, the more that we fight against the feeling and try to avoid feeling it, the more powerful it becomes. We can use the exercise of journaling and write this stuff out. A good prompt you can write is, what do I fear will happen if this is true? What if you are unloved? Well, you could say, okay, maybe she doesn't love me anymore. But you know you're still lovable. You know that you're still a good person. Does the way that someone else feels about you determine your self-worth? Does the way that someone else acts towards you determine your value as a person? You already know the answer to that question. You know it's a rhetorical question. But you also know sometimes it can feel really real. Like we really feel unloved and really feel unwanted. So then what is really the fear? We can journal again and write down the question. What do I fear will happen if I am truly seen? Meaning, if you dared to speak your truth and say, hey, I feel unloved. I feel hurt. I feel afraid that you're going to leave me. Can we talk about this? This relationship is important to me. It means a lot to me, and I've spent my life avoiding revealing the truth of who I am because I've been scared and afraid and that I won't be loved if I express myself authentically. But in that process, I've hurt myself. I've drank too much. I've avoided my feelings. I've used other people. I have spoken and acted in abusive ways because my fear manifested itself in ways that was really unhealthy. And I don't want to do any more damage or destruction to my body, my nervous system. I don't want to hurt the people around me anymore by avoiding the truth of who I am. And I'm ready to be brave enough to dare to be seen in the truth of who I am. Because I know that if you don't love me or you don't accept me, that's okay. Because I only want to be loved by someone who will love and accept the truth of who I am, the authenticity of who I am. So if you can't do that, then maybe we're not meant to be in partnership. Maybe we're not meant to be each other's person. And maybe this was an opportunity for us to learn about this, because the truth is, if we start to see the pain and the hurt and this abandonment wound as an opportunity to grow, as a calling to authenticate, as an invitation to become more fully ourselves and more fully alive, and take off the armor and the weight of carrying around this version of ourselves or these masks that we pretend to be something we're not, we can be more light and free to be the truth of who we are. And there's divinity in that. Meaning, the Creator created us to be our own person, to be unique individuals. And so if we can recognize that pretending to be something we're not, to try to get people to love us, is the denial of this divinity. It's a denial of the truth of who we are. We start to realize that maybe the pain in our lives is not a punishment. Maybe it's a great teacher. Maybe it's an opportunity. Not maybe. It is an opportunity for us to look in the mirror, tend to the wound, ask ourselves what the emotion is communicating to us. What is the story behind it? What is the feeling behind it? And how can we show up for ourselves and become for ourselves the very thing that we needed when we were a child? How can we break the intergenerational cycles of trauma and abuse by becoming the version of ourselves that treats ourselves the way that we need to be treated? So it really is a beautiful opportunity. I know the pain sucks. I know that low-level anxiety. I know the depression. I know the need to numb and distract. I know the patterns and the habits and the unhealthy things that we do, the coping mechanisms that we use to attempt to try to relieve ourselves from this pain. But I promise you, it may not happen overnight, but I promise you, if you sit in it, if you confront your fear, if you dare to feel those feelings and just sit with it and be kind and gentle and breathe through it. Make breathing deeply into the belly your default. Anytime you feel that anxiousness, just connect with the body and give yourself that gift of dropping into a more calm, relaxed state, nourishing your nervous system in a way where you can feel these intense, uncomfortable feelings. And they don't have to be that intense. They can just be mildly uncomfortable. But if we dare to feel them and breathe through them, they will dissipate. And we start the process of breaking up the heaviness and the density of this old wound that we've been carrying around for years, decades. And so there are paths to healing. We can do this inner child work and offer ourselves the love that we never received. We can use somatic practices like breathwork or yoga or Pilates or stretching or even, regular exercise, being out in nature, connecting with nature. It brings the body into natural states where it's connected in a way where it feels like it's safe and it's in an environment where it belongs. So being in nature and bring the body, the attention to the body, a connection to the body, is a really beautiful way of healing ourselves. And in that way, we don't want to punish the body. Because as I've grown in learning to reparent this inner child and practice self-care and develop a deeper self-love, I've learned to value and honor my body and appreciate it. And I naturally started shifting the way that I treat it. I exercise daily and try to make good food choices. And I respect and honor and have deep gratitude for my health. And so I want to maintain and protect that health as an homage and appreciation to the Creator for giving me this body. And when I can treat it good and keep it strong and healthy, for me, it's an act of self-love that helps this inner child heal. And also consider the possibility that therapy or coaching or a companionship with somebody who's going through a similar thing can be a really wonderful way to connect. It doesn't have to be a professional clinical relationship. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one, you can always book a call at edwoodstock.com or send me a DM, and we can work on specific issues if you want. And learning to just sit in that loneliness without collapsing into it, to just sit with the pain, to sit with the anxiety and the confusion, it really is a powerful way to develop a secure attachment to yourself. Because fundamentally, the only way that we're going to be able to share love, affection, kindness, consideration, and compassion with others is if we have it for ourselves. We simply cannot give to others what we do not have for ourselves. You want love? You want to give and receive love? You want to have beautiful connections? Helping people feel seen, heard, understood, and cared for? Well, we have to first love and see and care and understand ourselves. Because we cannot give to others what we do not have for ourselves. So if we develop a secure attachment to ourselves, it's the really only the only pathway for us to develop a secure attachment outside of ourselves. And try to understand that the partners that reveal this pain are also going through their own pain. They're going through their own abandonment wounds, their own confusion, their own lack of self-love. We start to see pain in this way when we start to see people that act out, as the saying goes, hurt people hurt people. we start to realize that those that do lash out and hurt people are the ones that are hurting the most. And so instead of taking it personally and seeing that as a reflection of who we are, if we have compassion and love and acceptance for ourselves, we can then have compassion, patience, love, and understanding for ourselves. And when you speak to yourself in a way that you wish other people would, you kind of change that relationship that you have with other people too. You can even say to yourself, like, I'll never leave you that way. I won't abandon you. I've got you, buddy. I'm here for you. I love you. I honor you. I value you. I trust you. And in this way, we can really heal the inner child. It's a beautiful gift that we give ourselves and that we can share with other people. The truth is that true strength in this life is staying with yourself in the hard moments, because you're no longer a child. So you have the power now to stay with it. See, when you were a child, you couldn't get out of or escape the environment you were in. You were trapped. You were a prisoner in your own home or your own room sometimes because you were scared of the people that were caring for you. They were abusive. They were violent. They were neglectful to each other, to themselves, and to you. And so if you realize you are no longer that child, you now have the power. And it's a beautiful way to rescue that part of yourself, because now you have the power to change your environment, to take that breath, to go for that walk, to have that conversation. And in that way, you remind that inner child that they are now safe to explore their feelings and express themselves truthfully without fear. Sometimes, for the first time in our lives, it's an invitation that we give ourselves to speak our truth. And sometimes this information might make us feel silly because we're like, oh, how come I didn't know this? But you don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love. None of us are perfect. So don't be so hard on yourself, because you're whole and complete just as you are. You really are. And even more beautiful in the sense that you are now showing up for yourself and willing to do the self-care. It becomes very attractive when you're connected to yourself, when you exist with presence, when you know who you are, when you can stand on your own, when you don't need others' love and validation. So if you want to be more attractive to others and develop a secure attachment, well, let's start with ourselves. Safe love does exist, and we can start to bring more of this safe love into the world by offering it to ourselves. If you offer that safety and connection to yourself, you share it with the others. You share it with the people you come in contact with. And that means not just primary partnership. It means forgiving our parents. It means the cashier or the busboy or the people in our lives who don't seem to be that meaningful or important. Let's not overlook the basic opportunity to offer kindness and love to the people that we come in contact with on a daily basis. Because then we don't need primary partnership as a means of feeling connected and whole and loved. We can feel connected by going outside and simply offering a kind word to a neighbor. Good morning. How are you? How did you sleep? Mean it genuinely. Don't do it from a place of hoping someone will think that you're kind, or, oh, he's such a nice guy, or he always asks me how I'm doing. No, do it because you genuinely want to see that person and hear that person and feel that person. Sort of like you needed to be seen, heard, and understood. Why don't we offer to others what we want for ourselves? Why don't we if we want more of something in the world, someone should do something about that. Well, guess what? You're someone. So do something about it. Repair and grow and nourish and nurture this connection with yourself and share it with the world. I mean, we talk about a sense of meaning and purpose in our lives. So many people are feeling disconnected from other people and a sense of meaning and purpose. What could be a better opportunity to create meaning and purpose in your life than to address the core wounds in ourselves and to offer the love, compassion, and kindness to other people in the ways that we would have wanted it? It really is the medicine that all of us want and need to feel loved and seen and heard. And so just know that this abandonment wound is deep, but it's not permanent. And it's not your fault. You don't need to keep proving your worth. With awareness, care, and presence, we can heal these wounds, and we can create relationships that are rooted in truth, not trauma. So, I hope you could hear that. I hope that you breathe deeply as you hear this. I hope that you're able to put your hands on yourself and offer yourself the love that you need. And it doesn't need to be a major thing. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. So just take that step and breathe deeply and be kind to yourself. And if you find the information in this video helpful, share it with someone who might benefit from its message. And be sure to bring into this world the very things that you think is missing. You don't need anybody else's permission. You're a full-grown adult now, so whatever you want to bring into the world, you are free to bring the full heart and passion of what you want into this world. But it starts with that relationship with yourself. So I hope this helps in you understanding yourself a little bit better and to recognize that the pain and the challenges and the suffering in our lives are opportunities and invitations to grow and become better versions of ourselves. So continue to do the work and take care of yourself so we can take care of each other.